Hi, minasan konnichiwa, and welcome to the Board Game Dojo's Import or Not, where for almost 1 year we have been talking to you about games from East Asia and whether they're worth your hard-earned money to import or not. We thought we'd celebrate that we're almost 1 year old on this channel by combining everything that we've talked about so far and telling you our top 10 games that we are the most confident in recommending to you to spend that hard-earned money to import. I hope you're as excited as I am, and we hope to make this an annual thing, so this is the March 2023 edition. So without further ado, let's get started. Now hold on, because before we begin, I just want to make one brief clarifying remark that we are not saying that these are the top 10 games to come out of Japan or South Korea. No. Because I think that you'll have games like Scout that I would probably put into that list, especially in recent years, but you can buy Scout in the US, the UK, and other foreign countries. So we're not going to put it on this list because you don't need to import it. We're more talking about games that are unique in a way that you can't get something else in your home country, or are a good enough value proposition that they're worth paying the game fee and the importation fee. So I just want to make that point that these are the top 10 games worth importing, not the top 10 games in general. Alright, let's get it started with number 10, and number 10 is the first video that we ever did on this channel. It is Yoda Yoda Penguin, designed by Roko Yabuchi and self-published. Now, this game is a wonderful little game in which players will be constructing a tower, almost Jenga style, that might include penguins, icebergs, and icicles, and you are trying to either run out of cards first, or if somebody else knocks over the tower, then the player with the fewest cards left wins. Now you'll be playing cards onto this tower that'll say things like, skip the next person's turn, a la Uno, or something like the next person needs to put on a penguin, or needs to put on an icicle to make the tower taller. But this game is really rules light, and people who have never played a board game before will really like this one as the aesthetic is so pleasing, and it is just so simple to pick up and play. And let's be honest, like, Jenga is usually not seen as one of the best games ever, but when that tower falls over, it is always a humorous moment, except for the person that does it themselves. Well, actually, no, sometimes for the person who does it themselves. Now, we really recommend this version of the game. There is a mini version as well, but we found that one much too small for reasons that we'll talk about in our full video that you can find up in the corner. But our number 10 game, Yoda Yoda Penguin, highly recommend, especially for families or people that are looking for games for new-to-game people. Alright, so this next game, we talked about that part of the way we evaluate the top 10 games to import is just the uniqueness, that you can't get something similar to it in your own country. And that is a way that we evaluate it, but we are cheating a little bit here because these are just the versions of a game that you could easily get in whatever country that you are in. Our number 9 game is the South Korean version and a Japanese version of Modern Art, a classic auction game designed by Reiner Knizia and has a ton of different artists. But what makes these ones so special, well, let me first explain the game. Modern Art is an auction game that has stood the test of time, really, in modern games, in which players will be bidding on art from different artists, and these purchases that they're making, buying and selling from each other, as you'll take turns being the dealer, really affects the market and how much these different painters' artworks are worth. It is almost a satire, actually it is a satire on modern art, and how much who we see as a good artist is determined by how much people are willing to pay for them. And there's all these different auction ways to keep it interesting, so you're not just doing a simple auction every single time. But the reason that these two are so just great versions of it that we recommend importing is this one with, yes, the South Korean version does have Renaissance painters, which kind of goes against the modern art feel, but what I love about this is just how opulent it is. It just seems to really lean into how ridiculous this is. It has metal coins, it's got a wooden gavel in it, and you are literally just sitting there. You feel like, ooh, I am a big wig. I am bidding on some art. It just really completely leans into it and makes for a night that is so hard to not be able to pull off the theme on this one. But I can also see why people prefer this one, which is the Oink game version of Modern Art. First of all, I mean, look how much smaller that one is compared to its big one. So the travel size, the portability of this one is great. Also comes with a little easel, so that's nice. But Really, I also love the modern art that they have chosen for this one, and it is really represented well, even though you have a lot smaller cards. Now, I do have to tell you that you do import this one from Germany, so even though it's a Japanese version of a game, you're not really able to buy it from Japan unless you see it in a used game market. But I really do think that the Japanese version and the South Korean version of this auction classic are well worth your money. That is our number 9, Modern Art. Alright, so our number 8 game, I don't actually own a copy of anymore, and partly that's because when I come back to the US, I always make sure that I bring a copy to sell or bring back for somebody. But the second reason is because when I play it with people, they tend to just want to keep it, and that is the tile laying game Stone Garden. Now, Stone Garden often is up there on lists that you'll find all over the internet of games to buy when you go to Japan. It is a large box that has rocks in it. And what you're going to be doing is each player will be building their Zen garden with the goal of building whatever is their secret goal, which is a famous Zen garden that is in Japan. Like I said, it is a tile laying game in which you will draw a tile from the stack and be putting it somewhere out onto your garden, hopefully connecting like pieces. But what's interesting about this game is the virtue system. So each round, something that you might be doing is just gaining 1 virtue. And you can spend these virtue points on mitigating the luck that is the draw pile. Because if you draw a tile that you don't like, the first thing you can do instead of putting it in your garden is actually offering it to other players. And they can then put that in their garden that they like, and you'll get virtue by doing that. You did something nice for somebody else. But there is a mean aspect to this as well, because if somebody draws a tile that you really, really like and they're not willing to give it up, you can spend 2 of these virtue points to steal it from them. Now, this last point actually can make it a game that some people just don't like. They like tile laying games to be breezy and not very confrontational, and this just slight bit of stealing can definitely make it seem more confrontational. This game, like our number 10, Yoda Yoda Penguin, never fails to necessitate some time during the game and after to just take a look at all the components, take a look at the aesthetics, and for this one particularly, what you have built. It always looks beautiful, even if you weren't super good. Something interesting that happens during the game is that some players will literally take tiles and put it down, even if it doesn't give them the most amount of points, just because it makes the most aesthetically pleasing garden in front of them. I think that this game really does elicit a beautiful traditional Zen sense that really brings me back to times in Japan, going to Kyoto, going to beautiful Zen gardens that are really mute and subtle. This game isn't going to pop off of anybody's shelf, but when you are done laying it down on the table, done playing your game, you will not fail to say, wow, look at the beauty that I have created here. And that is something special. Our number 8, Stone Garden. Ooh, and I do have to make one more point that this game does require you to download an English rulebook online. It is all going to be in Japanese, but it's after you play one game, especially with like the scoring, you should be all right. And that's actually why it's down at number 8 and not higher. All right, so on to number 7, and number 7 is a game that does require a little bit of translation, but it's very, very light. And in fact, it is our most recent review video on the channel, the party game Ito, designed by San26 and illustration by San26 or 326. I'm not sure if they do the English or the Japanese for their name. Ito is essentially Wavelength, the cooperative card game. Wavelength being a game in which you take a wheel and one player will need to get people to guess where on the extreme it might be. It might be light and versus dark, and they'll need to get their teammates to figure out where in between light and dark their clue is. But Ito is a cooperative card game in which each player will have number cards in their hands between 1 and 100. At the beginning of the round, you'll draw a category card that'll have 2 category choices on there that the group can decide which one they want to do. It might be something like, which one would you prefer to do? Most popular dog breed or most popular cat breed? Something like that. After the category is decided, each player needs to figure out where on the scale that they need to do. If they have a 1 in their hand, they want to give something that's not popular at all. Whereas if they have a 100, they need to figure out what is the most popular. You'll then need to figure out who's where, and then try to play your cards from your hand in ascending order. If you're able to do it, you go into the next round. But if you fail, you have to restart and you lose a life. 3 lives lost and you're out. We love this game. Even when you lose, it always brings about conversation. How did you think that this was more popular than this? How did you think that that burger chain was more delicious than this one? It's all about opinions and how well you know people at the table, but it is also about general conventions. Now, we did put that only at number 7 just because it does require a little bit of translation on the category cards. They're usually very, very light. It's like a couple of words, so you're not going to have a problem. But the second thing is just because if people are from different cultures that are sitting around the table or from different areas, it can be funny, but some people might find that annoying as well. Just like, let's say, what is the most popular dog breed? If somebody's from Japan and playing with somebody from the US, well, the popular dog breeds are a little bit different just because there tends to be more small dog breeds that fit in apartments in Japan, whereas there are more big dog breeds in the US. So just to be aware of that, but we highly, highly, highly recommend this one. That is why it is our number 7 best game to import. All right, our number 6 game is one of the most interesting economic games out there in our opinion, and that is Tulip Bubble, designed by Ryoko and published by a bunch of different publishers, but I have the one that's by Moeades Game Design. In Tulip Bubble, you will be playing through the Tulip Mania that happened in the Netherlands, which is the first speculative bubble ever recorded, in which people literally sold the farm in order to speculate on the price of tulips. Now, you're going to be doing much the same thing in this game, where you are going to be gambling some of your money to try to make sure that you have red tulips if you think red tulips are going to go up, or yellow tulips if you think those are going to go. But certain events are going to happen that are going to fluctuate that market, and other players might be trying also to manipulate the market in their favor. So throughout the game, there's going to be some harsh stuff that happens. Now, we think that this is one of the most interesting economic games that are out there, between the art, the theme, and just how interesting it is to have a game that is purely about speculation. That is so unlike a lot of other games. We feel that this is number 6, but there can be one big reason that this might not be for you, and that is the luck factor in this. Now, we think that there are multiple ways of mitigating the luck, and so we don't have too much of a problem with it, but this game can get pretty harsh, and there are just events that are going to happen that you might be spending your whole game trying to go towards red tulips and speculating on red tulips, and then it just turns out that red tulips are now worthless. And so now you're not really having very much fun because you might have gone negative and you're just sitting there kind of knowing that you're not going to win. Now, this game doesn't take too long at all, so you're not going to be sitting there for very long. But if you have problems where you're going to have one game where you think that this is really, really fun, and another game where you're just, oof, man, the luck is just working against me. If you don't like those kind of games, this is not going to be the game for you. But if you're okay with playing a very thematic game that is all about a bubble bursting and hoping that you can get out in time, making enough money on your tulips that are definitely better than everybody else's, then we cannot recommend Tulip Bubble enough, our number 6 best game to import. Alright, so now we are at our top 5 games. I'm so excited. I hope that I at least intrigue you enough that you're going to go look for these after you're done. I hope the whole list has been intriguing enough, but these top 5, we very, very much recommend. And our first one is the area control game Rumble Nation. This is our number 5. This one's designed by Shinichi Yogi and art by Toru Kageyama. Now, this is actually the old version of the game. There is a newer one, so if you don't see this art when you're looking on like Amazon Japan or something, don't worry, it's going to be the same game. This is the old version. Now, Rumble Nation is an area control game that plays in about 20 to 30 minutes, which right there should make you go, whoa, a good area control game in 20-30 minutes? All right, tell me more. Now, the first part of the game is all about putting down your troops. There'll be spots all over the board, 2, 3, 4, whatever spots. And based on your die rolls, you'll be able to decide where to put the troops and how many troops to put there. That's going to be the first part of the game. Mostly that's all you're going to be doing, is just kind of putting your troops all over the board, and everybody else will be too. But the second phase of the game is what I think makes Rumble Nation really special, and it's the concept of reinforcements. You're going to start from the lowest numbered area, and you're going to battle between the troops that are there. The winning army gets to send reinforcements to the adjacent units on the board, meaning that winning the 2, well, it's only worth 2 points, so do I really want that? But next to it is the 15, and if you win the 2, you get to send reinforcements to the 15 spot, meaning that the person who was on there thought that they were going to win the 15, but now you're sending additional troops there by winning the 2. It means that there's 2 ways to go. You can add troops to the same spot and just try to scare other people from going there, but you can also try to win all the surrounding spots. so that then you can get reinforcements there if you win. It is a beautiful game that really feels like the whole first part is you pulling back the slingshot, and then the second one is you just letting it go and seeing how it goes. I cannot recommend this enough. It is a game that is really rare in the area majority thing where you play it and then you want to just set it up again. You're just going to play another one, and then another one, and then another one. This game is usually a game that I brought to open up with a light little area control game, maybe a filler plus if you will, but it just ends up being the game that we play that night. And for a game that I've had that much success with, it definitely deserves a spot in our top 5. It's also relatively cheap. It usually retails at about $20 to $25. So, I mean, you really can't go wrong with that. That's our number 5, Rumble Nation. Alright, our number 4 game is our most viewed video at the time of recording, mostly because the instructions are in Japanese, and so we translated them to English. But I also think it's a phenomenal game, and that's Oink Games Tiger and Dragon, which is an updated version of the traditional Japanese game Goita. Now in Tiger and Dragon, it is all about attacking and responding. One player will play down a number, let's say 3, with these beautiful mahjong-like tiles, and then you'll go around the table and somebody will have to respond by playing a 3 on their own board. Now, based on the round that you're playing, you're going to draw a battlefield card that is going to determine how many points you'll get by winning, and you win by playing all of the tiles that are in your hand. So, for example, you might have one battlefield card that says that if you win on an even numbered tile, you get 5 points, but if you win on an odd numbered tile, you get 3 points, something like that. And you'll play with different battlefield cards in different rounds to make it interesting, so there's a lot of variability here. Now, if you want to go into our full review, I will put the link to the video up here, and I've probably been doing that throughout the video anyway, but I want to just go into why we like this game so much. It is one of those games where there is a lot of strategy to it, but just enough luck that it makes it so that it is readily accessible, but you can definitely get better at it. You can get better at mitigating that luck. You can get better at reading the players around you. Playing it with different people almost changes the game fundamentally. Are you playing with somebody who is really trying to attack a lot? There's also a lot of variability where there's some beginner battlefield cards when you're just starting. That might be something, like I said earlier, where even numbers are just worth more points if you win. But it might be something where you have to gamble, where you have to tell everybody, I'm going to win on this tile. And if you win on that tile, you get 8 of the 10 points needed to win. And you're calling your shot before you even start the round. So it's a game that you can play all the time. It has that very traditional card game feel, which I guess is because it's just a modernization of a traditional card game, if you will. But I just cannot recommend this game enough. That is Tiger and Dragon by Oink Games. Alright, you knew if you watched this channel or listened to our podcasts that there was no way we were getting through this list without mentioning a single trick taker. We've gotten through all the way to number 3 and haven't mentioned one. Well, that time is over, because our number 3 is the trick-taking game, Trick Taking in Black and White, also known as Bears. And Trick Taking in Black and White is such a simple premise. You're going to have a hand of cards, and in them, all of your cards have one side that's white and one side that's black. The lead player will decide which one you're going to play. Are you going to play white or are you going to play black? And everybody's got to play that side of their card on that turn. But the thing is, you have to balance out how many black tricks you win and how many white tricks you win. Because if you win the same number of tricks of both, then you get that many points that you got total, which can be quite a bit. But if you don't win the same number of tricks, you're going to lose points, meaning that you are constantly taking that risk of, well, do I think that I can win enough white tricks to want to win the black tricks that I can definitely win? It is so fun, and the reason that it is our number 3 versus a lot of other fantastic trick takers that you can get is, one, this isn't getting redone. There hasn't been any announcements that this is getting redone by anybody. But the second thing is that the best player count for this game is 3. And to have a trick taker in your collection that plays best at 3 is such a rarity. I mean, yes, there is Ultia that only plays 3, or there's Vivaldi, I think, also plays only 3. But this is a game that plays 3 or 4, but plays best at 3. And to have one of these in my collection that I love so emphatically, that plays at such a hard player count to really get to the table for really any game, let alone a card game, it definitely deserves a spot at well, this was not on purpose, at number 3. Our number 3 best game to import, Trick Taking in Black and White. We're just about ready to reveal our top 2. And man, both of these are kind of interesting in the sense that they both have Japanese rules in which you're going to need to find an English rulebook for, which usually would put off, but they're so good and so unique that we just could not recommend games more than these right now because we love them so much. Our number 2 game is a top 5 game for me, and it's going to be the subject of this week's podcast as a deep dive, but it is Hisashi Hayashi's Yokohama. Now, I am so sad to see about this that I have to tell you that you have to import this now, because TMG Games, which is the version that I have, has it in English and Japanese. So if you can find it there in your country, I mean, of course, get it. Yokohama is a game in which you will be putting down workers to gain technology, get faith in the church, and fulfill contracts to get points. All built around when Yokohama first became a huge port city when America and in the UK, and well, they had been there the whole time, but the Netherlands were gaining traction there. Probably the most famous thing that it is that Istanbul-like mechanic where you are moving based on you putting down workers, and then you can only move your president where those other workers are. And based on how many workers you have there is how strong that action is. So let's say that you have 2 workers there, and then you put your president down, so that's 3 power, you would get maybe 3 things of tea, or maybe 1 thing of silk, something like that. And I'm trying not to get super excited. I'm trying to be like very professional, but I love this game. I have probably racked up more plays of this than any other game, which it is a heavy game. This game takes a while. So the fact that I've played it this many times and I'm still this excited to talk about it. I love all the different strategies that you can do. I love the maneuverability of it. I love that you can still have fun on your first plays, or when you're teaching somebody, they can still have fun on their first play. But there is definitely a path in which you are getting better at the game, and you can just tell the efficiency difference between somebody who has played this game a lot and somebody who is new to it. Because you'll say like, okay, well right now I cannot figure out what they're doing. They're very good at hiding the path that they want to do. And then they'll just, nope, I'm going to the T to this one, and now to the silk, and now I'm going to be able to fulfill this contract. Like, how did you even do that? I didn't even see the path in which you could do that. It is such a wonderful game that I recommend, if you can get it in your language, of course, please do, because some secondhand will still have this game. But if you have to import it, it is still readily available in Japan in the Japanese version. I actually even think the Japanese version, because it's not the deluxe edition of it, is a lot skinnier. It's a lot smaller box. So if you prefer that one, you could also do that one. But don't worry, the English rules are readily available, and I cannot recommend this game enough. It is our number 2 game to import, Yokohama. Alright, it is time for number 1. I really wanted to make this a game that you wouldn't have seen coming, and then I could advertise it as, ooh, you'll never guess what our number 1 is, and you could like make it super YouTubey and things like that. But I mean, we've talked about this game a lot on our podcast. We've mentioned it a few times on our YouTube. We haven't done a full video for it yet, but if we've mentioned it so many times, I think it definitely deserves the number 1, and we just really like this game. Our number 1 game is Eten's Crash Octopus with the Pink Pirate expansion, which isn't very expensive to add onto it. Crash Octopus is a dexterity game in which you, on the table, will have this giant octopus that's on there as obstacles, and you'll be trying to accrue treasure that are out in the ocean. Now, throughout the game, you'll be flicking using these little flags, trying to flick the treasure and hit your ship with it so that you can then put it on the boat. But throughout the game, you might be attacking each other with the octopus, trying to like throw this dice and try to bounce it off the octopus head onto somebody else's boat so it knocks all their treasure off. Or you might flick something way too hard and it knocks all your treasure off your ship yourself. And meanwhile, all the while, there is a timer that is going around the outside. So you only have a finite of turns to try to accrue as much treasure as you can. Because if somebody is able to collect one of each type of treasure, then they win the game. So there is kind of a timer on it. And the Pink Pirate adds a little bit more variability and adds another little obstacle. And there's also a little island variant as well that's really nice. Basically, the Pink Pirate expansion and the little variants that are in the box really make this game playable in a lot of different ways. We have had tremendous luck on it, even with people who aren't usually very dexterous, because the flag gives them a very steady way of flicking things straight. So even if it's somebody like me that like my hands shake a lot, so there are some games in which I can't play. There are some dexterity games in which I don't really have a whole lot of fun because it's very precise, or the flicking, even just flicking things, the flag makes it really easy to just kind of have fun with it. This game is phenomenal. It goes in and out of print on Amazon Japan, but it is usually pretty readily available, and the expansion is as well, and it's at an affordable price too. I cannot recommend this game enough. There are some videos about it online. We have an Instagram post about it as well that you can check out, but our number one game, best game to import right here, Crash Octopus by Iten. So there you have it, our first annual, and hopefully not our last, top 10 games to import. Just to review, our number 10 was Yoda Yoda Penguin. Our number 9 was the South Korean and Japanese versions of Modern Art. Our number 8, which I don't own, is Stone Garden. Our number 7 was Ito. Our number 6 is Tulip Bubble. Our number 5, Rumble Nation. Number 4, Tiger and Dragon. Number 3 would be Trick Taking in Black and White. Number 2, Yokohama. And number 1, Crash Octopus. How do you think we did? Were there any games that you think that we missed? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today, and thank you to all of our subscribers and people who have commented, people who have left reviews over our first year of doing podcasts and YouTube. It is for you that we have been able to keep going, and I really appreciate it. Arigatou gozaimashita. Hontoni, hontoni arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you so much. And until next time, ja ne.